Hey guys, welcome back to the doremicom channel. We're here with RTD Season 4, Episode 2, Part 2 of Objectively Evaluating the Subjective Nature of the Tabletop Hobby. With me today are my panel, who you kind of seen before. It's just three of us today. And we are going to go ahead and continue on with question number 4, which is, does a single objective scale or method, no matter how complicated the scale or method is, work for multiple parts of the hobby? I.e., can you create a scale to objectively assess model painting, model sculpting, terrain building quality, etc.? I'm not saying one exists now. I'm saying, can it exist? Think more of the theoretical. If you were able to come up with an evaluation to make this happen, can you do it in such a way where it actually evaluates all parts of the hobby? And with this, we're jumping over to Solid Smurf.
This is hard.
Wait for the next Mr. question.
I know, right? I'm reading this. My brain is just cramping. I'm going to go with no. There is nothing that can objectively to everyone. That wasn't even a sentence, but it's okay. There is not a single scale that everyone can use to objectively view a model. There we go.
That's not the question. The question is, would you be able to come up with, is it possible to create a scale so that you don't have to go, this is the scale we use for models, and this is the scale we use for terrain building, and this is the scale we use for...
No, not at all. Because you can have a beautifully painted model on a smooth surface, and you can have a crappily painted model on a high-texture surface, sculpted. So no, it cannot be against everything. I mean, I think there can be similarities. I mean, terrain and painting can definitely go together. But you throw sculpting in there and everything goes out the window because it's a totally different tool set.
But John from Wargame Painting.
I'm going to say that you can't. It's always gonna, and I mean, I was an optimist in the last video and I got sick for like a month, but I gotta go back to being my normal pessimist. There's no way you can evaluate everything under one umbrella. I mean,
That's what I said.
There's too much personal preference in it for it to come out. Like, everybody's different and everybody views something different. I mean, you don't even see colors the same.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and jump in here and explain to you why these guys are completely knuckleheaded, because we actually answered the question in the second question. Yes, of course you can. Is it going to be easy to come up with a scale or methodology of evaluating it? No, but case in point, resolution. If I go terrain evaluated at a foot, terrain evaluated at 2 feet, terrain evaluated at 1 inch away from my eyeball, model paint job. How well is it painted at 1 inch? How well is it painted at a foot? How well is it painted at as far as my arms can stretch? An evaluation can happen. I'm not saying that it's easy to come up with one, but I'm saying, yes, you definitely can come up with an evaluation that covers the entire hobby spectrum of the tabletop hobby. Continued discussion. Now that you know the right answer, guys.
My inner artist is conflicted.
Taking the time to look to reason with myself here, I think that we might actually be able to find a standardizing for tabletops. Like you said, it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be, you personally are going to have to do it. I mean, it's going to be, the way it would be for like painting companies would be, here is a list of our products, and here is the pricing for them. You're not going to give them ratings. Then you're going to go in and say, okay, so for this price, I get this paint job. To me, that is a blank on a scale 1 to 10. All right, you're looking at a table. To me, this army is blank on a 1 to 10 on the table. Lean in closer, so you're playing like this. And to me, on a 1 to 10, it is a blank. And then you hold it up to your eye, and you can scratch your eye. To me, on a 1 to 10, that is that. And that's really the only way we're going to be able to standardize that. So it's going to be personal preference. You yourself can standardize the painting or the how it looks on the table and everything, but as a collective group of people, there's no way we could do it.
Well, but you do agree that if I was taking a model, and let's say it was sculpted by someone freehand out of green stuff, and then someone painted it, I could say the resolution of the sculpting portion of this model is a foot. And I could say the painting resolution of this model is 1.5 feet. I'm now using one scale methodology to evaluate two sides of the same model and effectively crossing over multiple pieces of the hobby. I actually think General Spladden has it right from this standpoint. This to me is the key element to General Spladden's whole methodology, is the fact that it can be universal. Because now, granted, when I'm looking at terrain, do I care that terrain is beautiful this close to my face? No, because I am never sticking terrain that close to my face. It's just going to be on the table, right?
That's how I paint terrain. I'm like...
But I'm just saying that a way to objectively identify, if you can conceptualize it, it could happen. Is it going to be easy to come up with that? No. And with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to question number 5, the mystery question, unless you got something else, John. I'm giving you 2 seconds.
I was going to say that I think that you're right, we can standardize if we're all taking like the drug in Equilibrium where you have no emotions at all and it just cuts off all of your personal preferences. Yes, you could standardize, but every time you said, does it look good from this far away?
No.
Can I argue with it?
Can I identify a problem with the paint scheme of this terrain at a foot away? Because that's what resolution is, right?
Then it becomes a yes/no. So it's not a scale anymore. It's is there a problem with that terrain on the table? Yes, no. It's not a yes. It's a yes/no.
Well, isn't that that's the nature of trying to evaluate something objectively as opposed to subjectively? Because the bottom line is, if we were just going to, can you subjectively evaluate the subjective nature? Yes, this paint job makes me feel purple.
You got to look at it as how many people out there every single time, 100% of the time, will be able to look at something subjectively. It's never, because I know there are models out there as
Smurf.
No.
Everyone looks at it subjectively. You're saying objectively.
Exactly.
Well, no, but you just said, how often would it possibly happen that people will look at something subjectively, was your statement.
No, so, sorry. How often can someone look at something objectively 100% of the time? And the answer is never. I mean, I know there are sculpts out there that I think are just sexy. I'm just like, the way you wear that power armor, it moves my soul, But, I'll look at that model and it's got a bad paint scheme and I'm just like, I really like that model, I'll accept it, But then I'll see a model that has a ridiculous paint scheme, but I hate the sculpt and I'm just like, yep. Next, and so it's never going to happen. We're never going to have people who are able to remove themselves from their emotions, as John was putting it with his, I like the Equilibrium reference, Matt, props to that, by the way. But it's not going to happen. It's not. And then you got pride in there, and envy, and all that good stuff.
But smart.
Somebody else wants your model because it looks better than theirs, and
but smart.
They're going to hate you and throw dice at you.
Stop arguing.
Away from my point.
I agree with John, and that is my statement.
But John just said you took his point and ran 180 degrees in the opposite direction.
No. But he just threw so much crap on top of what I was saying that it's now buried at the bottom of envy and lust and all that other stuff that he was talking about. And I'm like, my point is saying that to evaluate a model, you have to remove everything that you feel about that model and then look at it purely from an artistic standpoint. And I think that you're right, that if you're holding it out this far, that everybody in the entire universe can say, that looks good, that looks bad. That is an easy decision to make.
Right.
But once you start coming in closer, it's going to be harder. You can't, though, say this looks good, this looks bad, and then put a number to this looks good 4, this looks bad 6. It's
again,
no at this point.
Again, John, this is why I think combining the first two methodologies actually muddies the water a little bit, unless there was a way to truly identify what, for instance, when looking at a model's painting, that you can objectively identify what the painting levels mean. That you're right.
Are we looking at technique, or is it artistic? Because that's two totally different things. Because you can have something that's technically sound, but is artistically ugly.
I feel like there is just too many variables to decide on a set thing. Because while I agree that this is the better of the two, between scaling and this. That's the better of the two. But I think that the difference is you can't scale this. It becomes a yes-no question, as opposed to this, which is a rating system.
You don't think, though?
That's what I'm trying to say.
But you don't think an inch is better than a foot, is better than 2 feet, is better than 3 feet? You do have a scale built in there, but let me go ahead and jump on to the next question, because unfortunately this episode is breaking down because you guys are being like, it's too complicated. We tackle the complicated things. We tackle the complicated things here. We don't play easy. We don't be like, we don't have RTDs on. Let's talk about this rule, actually how it's read, and read the rule. And everyone go, is that what you read on that page? No.
I'm not disagreeing with Brian. I'm saying, yes, this is the better scale. I'm saying that I think that the better way to approach it is the yes-no factor, because as soon as you start putting in the scale again, everything in the human psyche is going to take into effect on it. And if you're trying to get a universal understanding of it,
yes, and so
between the three of us,
yes, but John, when divers dive on the Olympics, the type of dive they dive is given a difficulty rating. Period. It's objective in the analysis, and then they are then evaluated on how well they performed that difficulty, which again means that if you can truly come up with a good scale that states that these are the things that you need to be looking for in a model when you are painting a model, and it's something that people can adhere to, then you can say, does it work at a foot? Does it work at 2 inches? Does it work at a foot and a half? Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes. Right? And then, so in that scale, you can go painting level 2, but man, I could get all the way up to 2 inches away from the model, and it still looks like a painting level 2 to me. I don't see any imperfections outside of level 2. You know what I'm saying?
I'm going to just throw this out there, and then I'm going to sit down, and I'm going to be done with this question. I'm going to let you move on. But in the Olympic example, that diver is emulating the exact same thing that somebody else said, this is perfect. So you are now trying to copy him. On a model, it becomes what is perfect to you, because there is no standard up on a trophy pedestal. This is how you do it.
Right, and no one would ever come up with this is how you do level 2.
Exactly. So if you're really going to find the root of this problem, there's no set, this is how you do it. Because now you have nothing to compare against.
All right.
I'm done.
All right. Question number 5. We're moving on, sir. Sorry, you lost your chance. Here we go. This is another mystery question. And we're going to start the answer off with Smurf. So if he wants to fill in gaps from last question with this one, he can. What evaluation do you prefer using when discussing the objective qualities of the subjective nature of the hobbyist's activities? So where does your allegiance lie?
Are we talking personally or from a business standpoint?
Are you running a Are you running a business?
I
Painted models for other people.
When
Okay.
you are talking about models,
Okay.
or
I'll
some
use
aspect of the hobby.
Handy dandy dude that's been sitting around because no one bought him on eBay. So I look at this guy, and I consider this one of my better painted models. Even though from back here, y'all can tell this is a fantastically painted model.
Actually, not really, because of the resolution of your
resolution. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed that. So for me, I don't care what other people think. It's all about what I do. Is it up? Have I pushed myself? Have I challenged myself? Is it what I want for me? If it meets my standards, I'm happy. Even if I'm painting for someone else, I look at the piece and I look at it and I evaluate it and I go, is this something I would play with? Is this something that I want on the table where I want my name with this? If it's no, I don't, it's not ready to send out yet. If it's not ready to touch a table. So that's the way I do it. I don't have a scale of, I painted this guy at a 6 and this guy at a 5 and Joe Schmo over here is at a 4. You know, I don't have a scale like that. I don't do resolutions. I mean, of course I start out with if I can hold it here and see mistakes, I got more work to do. But that's because of my personal code of painting.
Okay, so Smurf likes answering the question how to subjectively evaluate the subjective hobby, and he evaluates it with hugs that the models give him. John.
Well, to answer the question that you asked.
Thank you, John.
How okay. I look at an army, I look at a model, and I say, is it good on the table? Is it good when I hold it? And is it good when I'm scratching my cornea? I do the variable thing. And I don't give it a number value. I just say, does it look good? Yes. Awesome. Does it look bad? Go home. All right? I mean, that's it. That's what I do. Is it good on the table? And really, the more and more that I invest into other things, not the hobby, the more and more I'm getting to the point where, does it look good on the table? Yes. All right, I'm done. So really, the way that I'm starting to judge models is, does it look good on the table? If you're putting 20 hours of detail into the model, you're painting actual Latin onto the guy's cape, good for you. I don't care. Does it look good on the table? It's got squiggly lines on the back of it. So that's where I'm coming from. Does it look good on the table is now how I'm looking at models.
So John uses a very, very big brush for his scale, and it's a checklist of 3 things, all with thumbs up, thumbs down. It could be identified as an objective scale. For me, honestly, as much as I love everything that we've talked about, for me, the telltale indication of how well a model is painted for me is how much am I willing to pay to have that paint job done to one of my models. It's a very, very clean-cut number. Does it work universally? Not necessarily, because, again, people come at this from different walks of life, different amounts of expendable cash, but and I'm not saying that I'm on the hunt to constantly look at, oh, that's good, I really want to get this, and I'm willing to pay this for it. But I think in the back of my brain, one of my college buddies used to evaluate everything based on how much time or how much money it would cost in cases of beer to do X, Y, or Z, spending money in something else. But for me, I think when I look at it, I can clearly go, if I was going to have someone paint that, because my scale hasn't changed. I mean, it's been $20 as a painting job fairly indefinitely, because I haven't started. My logic on how forming this didn't start back when I was in high school or whatever. It's only been since I've been, working for a substantial amount of time. Do we have anything else to discuss about with this question?
I gotta say, I like the money one. I like that. That's a good scale. I do go out into my daily life, and I've never really applied it to painting models because I paint my own stuff, but I do go out and I say, how much food could I get as opposed to spending the money here? Like when I go out to a movie, how much food does this movie cost? Because, I mean, I like eating food. I mean, like, how many Five Guy burgers can I get if I don't go to this movie? And it's usually like 2. So that's a really good scale, I think, is how much am I willing to pay that? But that's, again, becoming personal preference.
Well, no. It's still an objective scale, right? But the problem is that it's not universally objective. That's the problem. And because if I say I would spend $1, you know what $1 is, I know what $1 is. Unfortunately, the importance of what this $1 represents sometimes can be different.
Yep.
But $1 is worth so much more than a monetary. If you look at economics, the monetary value of $1, it's also, it's emotional. It's for you, spending $1 on a box of crayons might bring you the biggest joy you've ever had all year, but for someone else, buying a hamburger might bring them the biggest joy and the best meal they've had for all year.
Well, if that's the case, Smurf, I'd be willing to spend more than $1 on that box of crayons if it would bring you the biggest joy in the world. I'm just saying, so it's okay. You can still apply it, right? Like when I look at this Warjack as it's painted, it's fairly nice painted, and you're not going to be able to tell because of resolution and it's fuzzy and whatnot. But I kind of look at this and I go, if I look at this subjectively, I go, I could easily see myself spending $9 to have it painted like this, okay? And then I go, unfortunately, opportunity costs kick in. I go, I could have this model painted if I didn't want to paint it myself, or I could be playing Amnesia: The Dark Descent by buying it on sale from Steam. All right, next question. We're up to question number 6. This will be our prediction question. Make a prediction, no matter how outlandish, about any future evaluation of the hobby aspect. And for this, we're going to start off with Solid Smurf.
Okay, so I really think that it will become more standard. I think, as much as I dislike the idea of standardization, I think it will be. But we're always going to have this isn't an outlandish prediction at all. This is just a boring prediction. Let's make it outlandish. There will never be a standardization. It will always be bizarre. It'll always be emotional, and it'll never be objective. I mean, it'll be extremely subjective. And we'll never, ever get there. Ever.
All right, John, what's your thoughts?
I'm going to say that since you want an outlandish one, that it's never going to happen because people are just going to stop caring. They're either going to decide that it's not worth investing money into and not get it painted, or they're just not going to want to paint it themselves, and we're just going to have a bunch of gray dudes running across the table.
All right.
So then it's going to, so it's actually going to get standardized because it's going to be gray. And everybody's going to like gray. So it's going to be, how gray is your gray model?
That's pretty gray.
It's not going to get standardized. All right.
All right. For my prediction, I actually think people are going to start moving farther and farther into 2 camps, just like we have today, where you have the extreme hobbyists who, out of a necessity of being able to evaluate models of value, artistic value, will come up with some sort of standard. And if that fails, cool mini or not. So that's it. Episode 2 of season 4 of the RTD. How to effectively objectively evaluate the subjective nature of our hobby. Hope you guys enjoyed. And if not, please understand this topic was tough. Peace.